Hey Reddit, I've got a bit of an unexpected situation on my hands and I could use some advice. So, here's the story. Years ago, back in high school, my girlfriend Gigi and I ended up pregnant, even though we were always careful. Life's got its own plans, I guess. When Gigi found out, she lost it. She had big dreams of becoming a model and felt like this was the end of the line for those dreams. She had been hustling hard through college with part-time jobs and auditions, so I totally got how much this meant to her. I told her I'd support whatever choice she made, but when we found out the pregnancy was too far along for termination, it hit her really hard. Our families had different takes on what to do next. My parents were ready to step up and support us in any way possible. They wanted to make sure everything would be okay for the baby. Gigi and her mom, though, were all for putting the baby up for adoption. Gigi's mom thought this was the best way for Gigi to chase her dreams without the guilt of motherhood holding her back. But my parents and I couldn't get behind that plan. I promised Gigi and her mom repeatedly that I'd take full responsibility for the baby. I even told Gigi she wouldn't have to do a thing if she didn't want to. Despite my promises, they kept pushing for adoption. Gigi was scared that if she let me keep the baby, she'd somehow get dragged into our lives later. She wanted a completely clean break. I spent days assuring her that after she gave up her parental rights, I'd never bother her again. Eventually, they agreed, and that's what happened. After Gigi gave birth to our baby girl Diana, she moved on with her life. My parents and I took on the full responsibility of raising Diana. Balancing school with a newborn was tough, but seeing Diana grow made it all worth it. I stayed true to my promise and never contacted Gigi. My life revolved around Diana, and she gave me a sense of purpose I'd never felt before. Yeah, my college experience was totally different from my friends. They'd tease me about missing out on fun stuff, but they didn't understand the bond I had with Diana. Each milestone she hit, every smile and laugh, made all my sacrifices worth it. I worked hard to get through college while holding down a part-time job to support her. I'm super thankful to my parents for all the support they gave us. They were there for those late-night study sessions and the times when I felt overwhelmed. Their help allowed me to focus on my studies and take care of Diana. When I finally graduated and got a stable job, I was thrilled to move out with Diana into our own place. It wasn't just about having a roof over our heads. It was about creating a home where we could make new memories. The first few years were just the two of us managing our little routine: work, daycare, homework, dinner. It wasn't easy, but it was our life, and I loved every moment of it. When Diana was 5, I met Chloe. She was a divorced woman who had been through a tough marriage, but was incredibly kind and compassionate. Her bond with Diana was what made me fall in love with her. Chloe embraced Diana as her own, and we soon got married with Diana as our flower girl. That day was amazing, filled with love and joy, especially for my parents who had seen me struggle but now saw me find happiness. Over the years, Chloe proved to be a wonderful stepmom to Diana. We bought a larger home, and sadly, I lost my parents to health issues not long after. That time was rough for us, and maybe it's why I couldn't give Diana the attention she deserved during that period. So, back in the day, Diana started dealing with some really nasty bullying in high school. It all kicked off when some of her friends found out from their gossiping moms that Chloe wasn't her biological mother. It didn't help that Chloe's got that blonde hair and sharp nose, while Diana's rocking brown curls and pretty different facial features. It became obvious they didn't look alike at all. When Diana's friends caught wind of this, they started teasing her nonstop at school. They'd say horrible stuff like, "Your real mom probably ditched you 'cause she never loved you," and "Chloe's gonna dump you too." Diana got super sad and withdrawn. I had no clue what she was going through at the time. She kept all that pain to herself. It wasn't until things got way out of hand that I realized how bad it was. One day, we got a call from the principal's office saying Diana had supposedly attacked another student and broke her nose. I was freaking shocked because my daughter had always been this gentle, kind soul. Chloe and I rushed to the school, hearts pounding, to figure out what happened. In the principal's office, we found out that Diana had been relentlessly bullied by this other girl. Diana finally snapped and threw a rock at her in pure frustration and rage. Hearing about all the bullying Diana endured filled me with a mix of anger and sadness. I was ready to storm over and give the other kid and her parents a piece of my mind, but Chloe, always the calm one, managed to hold me back. The other girl's parents wanted Diana to apologize, but I was seeing red. I threatened to take legal action against them and the school for letting this harassment go on for so long. I made a big scene about how serious bullying is and how it pushed Diana to her breaking point. My intensity must have scared them off, because they decided not to push the issue any further. I never scolded Diana for what she did, because I knew how much pain and torment she'd been through before finally standing up for herself. It was heartbreaking, but I was also proud of her for finding the courage to defend herself, even if it came at such a drastic cost. After that, I knew it was time to sit Diana down and have a real talk about her biological mom, Gigi. Until then, Diana had a vague idea of why Gigi wasn't part of our lives, but I'd never fully explained it to her. I told her about how Gigi and I became parents really young and why Gigi decided to leave. I reassured Diana that Gigi's choice had nothing to do with her and explained that sometimes adults just aren't ready to take care of kids. I also made sure to point out how lucky she was to have Chloe, who loved her deeply and treated her like her own. I hoped this talk would help Diana move past her curiosity about her bio mom, but a few weeks later, she told me she was trying to reach out to Gigi. This worried me because Gigi had made it clear she didn't want any contact. Despite my warnings, Diana was determined, and I was scared she'd get hurt. When Diana finally contacted Gigi, she was so excited because Gigi apparently was happy to hear from her and wanted to meet up. I was skeptical since Gigi had never tried to reach out to me about Diana in all those years. I told Diana as much, but she was all in, believing Gigi's words completely. Diana insisted on meeting her alone, but I was firm about dropping her off to make sure it was really Gigi. So on the day of the meetup, I drove Diana to the mall. My eyes were darting all over, half expecting Gigi to not show up. But then Diana spotted her and pointed her out excitedly. There she was, Gigi, and she seemed genuinely happy to see Diana. They hugged, and it was such a surreal moment. I hung back to give them space, but kept a watchful eye. Diana looked so happy, and seeing that eased some of my doubts. Gigi greeted me politely and promised to bring Diana home after their chat. She thanked me for the chance to meet her daughter, and she seemed sincere. Several hours later, as promised, Gigi brought Diana home. My daughter was glowing with excitement, thrilled about their conversation. Diana eagerly shared how wrong I'd been about Gigi, saying her bio mom regretted not being part of her life and now wanted to be involved. Hearing this stirred up mixed feelings in me. Part of me was relieved Diana had a positive experience, but I was still cautious about this sudden change after all these years. I couldn't help but wonder what this new relationship would mean for our family and for Diana. Chloe reassured me that we couldn't control the situation, and all we could do was hope Gigi wouldn't let Diana down. Over the next few weeks, Diana started meeting Gigi regularly. At first, I was as supportive as I could be, wanting Diana to explore this relationship. But then I noticed a pattern. Diana kept asking me for money before meeting Gigi. At first, I thought it was for personal expenses, but it became clear that Gigi expected Diana to cover their meals. This puzzled and worried me, so I asked Diana why Gigi didn't pay. Diana said Gigi was having financial troubles, but assured me she was looking for a job. As weird as the situation was, I let it go for Diana's sake. I wanted her to be happy and supported, even if it meant some compromises. But then, I started noticing things disappearing from the house, starting with Chloe's cherished family heirlooms. That's when things really started to feel off. So let me tell you about this crazy situation we went through. We had these wedding gift saucers from my wife Chloe's grandma that started disappearing. At first, we thought they were just misplaced, but then Chloe noticed some of her fancy clothes and lingerie were missing too. That's when we started freaking out because it made no sense where these things could be going. Naturally, we asked Diana, hoping she had some clue. Every time we questioned her, she'd swear she had no idea what we were talking about, and even blamed Chloe for being careless. Chloe got super paranoid and insisted we put up cameras around the house to catch any thieves in the act. One day, Chloe couldn't find her wedding ring. She always left it on our bedside table before going to the gym, and we'd been really careful with our rings because they were valuable. When she couldn't find it after coming back, she was totally stressed out, so we decided to check the security footage together. What we saw was mind-blowing. Turned out, whenever we weren't home, Diana would snoop around the house and take things. We saw her going into our bedroom and coming out with Chloe's wedding ring in her hand. When I confronted Diana with the footage, she turned pale and finally fessed up. Turns out, she'd been stealing from Chloe for months out of spite, resenting our marriage. She even said she wanted me to leave Chloe and get back with her biomom, Gigi, claiming that Gigi still had feelings for me. I was beyond pissed but tried to stay calm. I explained to Diana that my commitment to Chloe was rock solid and that her expectations were just delusional. But she flipped out, yelling that I had abandoned Gigi and that Chloe could never replace her mom. She even threatened to falsely accuse Chloe of sexual assault and grooming if I didn't leave her immediately. I couldn't believe my own daughter would stoop so low. Chloe was understandably freaked out and told me she couldn't live under the same roof as Diana anymore. I had to agree. Diana needed a serious reality check. So, we decided she'd move out and live with Gigi, especially since she was going to be 18 soon. I told her I'd support her financially until then, but she'd need to sort out her college funds herself. Diana tried to fight back, made more nasty threats, but I stood my ground. I even called Gigi to pick her up, and unsurprisingly, Gigi didn't show any remorse. Diana moved in with her mom, and I kept sending her money weekly. Eventually, I heard Diana got into a good college with a partial scholarship and needed help with the rest of the fees. When Gigi called demanding I pay, I told her no way. Diana needed to learn the value of hard work. Months went by without a peep from either of them, until one day, Diana called me, crying. She lost her spot at the university because Gigi didn't support her, and now she was working at a fast food joint, paying rent to Gigi. She begged to move back home. I offered to pay her rent elsewhere and maybe help with college later, but she blew up at me, calling me useless and saying she wished I were dead. So, Reddit? Aita for not letting Diana move back in and for not forgiving her completely? Here's some context. Diana's behavior got worse every time she visited Gigi. She'd come back and call Chloe nasty names. We thought it was just a phase, but threatening to accuse someone falsely is super serious. Chloe could have been in major trouble. There's no way I could ask my wife to live with Diana again, especially since Diana still seems to hate her. Recently, Diana agreed to let me pay her rent directly to the landlord. She's looking for a new place now. I'll also help with college, but this time, Chloe won't be involved. Diana seems to realize her mistakes and apologized, but Chloe understandably wants nothing to do with her anymore. Gigi's pissed about losing Diana's money, but oh well. So that's where we're at. What would you do in my shoes?